Hello everyone, it's Turin here, and today guys, welcome to the Valley of Khorne. In today's mod spotlight, we will indeed be returning to the Ultimate Chaos mod, where we will feature a chaos civil war between the Chaos Warriors of Khorne and the Chaos Warriors of Nurgle. The Valley of Khorne is a map designed specifically for 2 vs 2 play, and as such, we will have 2 bloodthirsty Khorne armies facing off against the disgustingly resilient and putrid forces of Papa Nurgle. For anyone that is interested in the mod, as well as the map, please see the information box below. Lastly, a big thanks to the mighty Italian Spartacus, Black Iron, and the Gobbo King for partaking in this glorious slaughter. Alright guys, so now it is time, let the games begin, and hopefully you guys enjoy this battle. Alright guys, now we're here with the Chaos Civil War between the Chaos Warriors of Khorne and the Chaos Warriors of Nurgle. So right here, this is actually the Khorne army I'm going to be piloting, led by a Chaos Lord of Khorne. Over here, I'm joined by the mighty Italian Spartacus, who is also going to be leading a Khorne army, but his is a little bit more demon-focused. You can see in the front line, he has a bunch of Bloodletters of Khorne, and guys, he actually did bring a Bloodthirster, which pretty much costs as much as an entire army, so it really cuts into the unit quality, but this thing is an absolute beast. So guys, we're going to go ahead and take a look at both of the armies and have some fun. So over here on my side, I do have a group of Chaos Knights of Khorne, or Knights of Khorne, I should say. These guys have very, very good offensive stats, and if you look here, this is kind of the common trait among all the Khorne units, is that they have Frenzy. So these guys right here just have a regular Frenzy mechanic, but on top of that, they have very, very high melee attack. And that's the biggest thing. The Chaos Warriors of Slaanesh, from the, my limited experience of having played them, they actually have the highest weapon strength, but the Khorne is unrivaled in its melee attack, and they have very good weapon strength and charge bonuses as well. So these Chaos Knights of Khorne do have a Frenzy, which is very common. So this is actually like a standard Frenzy, but some of the Khorne units, for example, not the Warriors of Khorne, but the heavy duty guys, the Skull Takers of Khorne, I believe they have Endless Frenzy. So this is a Frenzy that's going to stay on the entire battle. There's going to be nothing that's going to take it off, like typical Frenzy, where when a unit gets below 50% leadership, it then drops. So that's one of the big staples of Khorne in this mod, is that they all, or most of the elite units or higher tier units, do have this Endless Frenzy. So aside from the Knights over there on the far side, I do have some Warriors of Khorne, which are just the standard rank and file of the Khorne Legion. Very, very solid troops. And again, like I mentioned before, their melee attack is off the charts. It's actually 57. And since they are kind of a shielded unit, they do have 37 melee defense, but also one of the downsides of Khorne in this mod is that most of their units, especially the ones without shields, have very, very low melee defense, but they hit like trucks. So a little bit of give and take there. They also do have silver shields, but it's not terribly pertinent against the forces of Nurgle. Right here, I do also have a Forsaken Giant, which is just a ridiculous unit, but it was really fun. And basically the only difference between the Forsaken Giant and a regular Giant, I believe it has a little bit more HP, but on top of that, it does also, let's go ahead and zoom in here, get a nice close-up, it does have Frenzy as well. So that's the big difference, hence its higher weapon strength, its charge bonus, as well as its melee attack, which is pretty incredible as well. In the back, I do have some Chaos Cultists with polearms, so these are just kind of the cheap spears, and they're pretty good for their cost. I mean, they're dirt cheap. I think they cost like 300 or something. They do have an anti-large and armor piercing, so, it doesn't hurt, and they're pretty good at helping defend off the Cavalry of Nurgle and all that kind of funny stuff. So over here in the front, guys, I do have a champion, or a Chaos Lord of Khorne. So this guy he's the big papa of my army. He looks really, really cool. And on top of that, guys, he has this ability called Kill, Maim, Burn. So Khorne in this particular mod doesn't have its own lore magic or a caster that has like Khorne spells, which I think is actually lore specific or lore accurate. But what they do is they have Kill, Maim, Burn. So if you guys look at this, it's a massive 30-second buff. So when you activate this, your troops get 50, or your lord gets 50% weapon damage, 50% melee attack, and 50% charge bonus. So his weapon strength shoots up to like 700 or 800, and he can just absolutely destroy enemy lords and heroic units. Definitely very thematic and fun, and I really like that ability quite a bit. On top of that, he does have Endless Frenzy stacked with regular Frenzy. He has the Thirst for Slaughter, which gives enemies, enemy presence, enemy presence and ability range. So ability range, 12 leadership, 20% speed, and immunity to psychology to nearby troops, which is quite good. On top of that, guys, I do have the Warriors of Khorne, and I have the Skull Takers of Khorne. So these guys are kind of like very similar to Chosen, two-handed great weapons, but look at the weapon strength on these guys. They actually have 67, they have 66 melee attack, but they go down incredibly fast. So it's really important to kind of saturate them with some of the standard Khorne Warriors or some Cultists or things like this. But these guys also have a bonus versus Infantry and a bonus versus Large. Very well-rounded unit, and they do have 90 leadership. So these are very elite units. They actually cost like 16 or 1700 resources, and this is an ultra funds battle because a lot of the units in this mod are quite expensive. In the back, I do have a second group of, not a second group, but a second Forsaken Giant and a group of Warriors of Khorne out on the far side to kind of round up my army. So that's pretty much it for my army. Some Cultists, some Skull Takers of Khorne. I do have a Chaos Lord of Khorne. I also do have a Champion of Khorne, which is pretty much the same as the Chaos Lord of Khorne, slightly weaker, but he does have Kill, Maim, Burn, and Endless Frenzy. So guys, you guys are probably going to be more excited to see the army of Italian Spartacus here. So in the front line, he actually has a bunch of Bloodletters. So these guys are demons. So demons work the same way that undead work in that they don't crumble. They're pretty much impervious to leadership issues. Well, they're not, but if their leadership, breaks a certain threshold, they will crumble. But guys, their leadership is incredibly high. So unlike the vampire counts, it's very, very hard to crumble these guys. So they usually fight to the bitter end. What's also cool about these demons is, and let me go ahead and get right on top of them here, they do have immunity to vigor, so they never get tired. They also have a ward save built in of 20% to all damage types. And you can see here they have like the undead trait. The tooltip didn't get changed, but it's pretty much the same like I was talking about. They crumble, and they do have endless frenzy. So very neat unit. So his whole army is basically bloodletters, and then he has some cultists in the back line to support them. And he also has the cult grandmaster, which is basically like the demon caster for this mod. He has 2 abilities, so let's go ahead and pause it here so you guys can check this out. He has a breath attack, so demonic he actually didn't bring it, but he has demonic invigoration, which is a healing ability only for demons. So you can cast it on the Bloodletter of Khorne, you can cast it on the Bloodletter Infantry, the Bloodthirster. And on top of that, he can summon Bloodletter. So a very neat unit. Very expensive on Winds of Magic, but he does have a heal as well as a summon ability. And over here in the front, guys, we have the mighty Bloodthirster of Khorne. So this guy is just awesome. He's a beast. So I'll go ahead and put it in slow-mo so you guys can see him running up here. But guys, he has 625 weapon strength. He has a very, very massive bonus to both large and infantry. He has a charge bonus of 70, 105 leadership, 106 melee attack. And he's incredibly fast with 80 move speed. So this guy can just absolutely annihilate enemy lords, enemy monsters units. One of the issues Italian Spartacus and I did notice with this guy is that his move, he's very clunky with his pathing. So sometimes when he's like charging things, he'll just knock them over nonstop, and it's very all over the place. But guys, he has kill, maim, burn, just like the other Khorne units, which means when you pop this, his weapon strength is literally very close to 1,000. He has deadly onslaught, heroic killing blow, endless frenzy. On top of that, he has several different ward saves. He has disintegrate, so he's like an undead unit, but he has mighty knockback. So unlike other units, when he runs into a group of infantry, he knocks them into the shadow realm. It's very strong. He also has immunity to vigor and all kinds of good stuff. So that's the army for the mighty Italian Spartacus, and both of us are basically going to be facing off against one of the Nurgle forces. So over here on the far side, you can see, I might as well go ahead and hit play because it's going to take a while, but he does have some Nurgles afflicted here, which you guys saw in the last mod spotlight. They're basically like zombies with regeneration, and they come with 150 models, so very, very good for tar-pitting Khorne lords. On top of that, they do have a Chaos Lord of Nurgle here who does have the Putrid Explosion. He has the Cone attack, which is, I believe it's called like Vile Stream or something, which basically can one-shot groups of infantry. Very, very good, very resilient, and he also does have poison. In the back, he has some Warriors of Nurgle who are going to be backed up by Plague Bearers of Nurgle. So the Plague Bearers of Nurgle, very good, immune to vigor, they have ward save, they poison, very durable unit, and they also are demons, so they're going to disintegrate. They won't have leadership issues, which I like quite a bit. The Warriors of Nurgle, one of the big staples of their army is that they all have physical resist for the most part. So they're extremely tanky. If you look at Chaos Warriors of Khorne compared to the Warriors of Nurgle compared to the Warriors of Khorne, the Khorne Warriors obviously have lower melee attack, lower weapon strength, but they have a very good physical resist, and on top of that, they have much more HP. Kind of one of the recurring themes of Nurgle, of course, is being very tanky. They do also have a Plague Cannon back here, which has regular standard attacks, but their siege attacks actually imbue poison, which is very good. And they also do have Putrid Rot, which is like a targetable kind of Arrow of Khorne type ability. And you can see back here, they're actually piloted by a bunch of kind of Bretonnian-looking guys, which is neat. Aside from that, he does, I believe, have a champion down here. No, he actually has a Chaos Sorcerer with the Lore of Death. So Death in this mod actually translates directly to Nurgle. So if we look down here, you can see he actually has a bunch of Nurgle abilities. So he has Stream of Corruption, which is AoE. He has Nurgle's Boils, which lower the ward save of all nearby units. It's very strong. Bloated with Disease, so when he casts, he gets healed. And he also does have Blades of Putrefaction, which imbues poison, and Fleshy Abundance, which is probably the best ability available to them. It's essentially a healing ability. Over here on the far side for the other Khorne army, this is going to be Black Iron's army. He does have a Champion of Nurgle, which is basically like a smaller version of the Lord. He has a bunch of Nurgles afflicted, so the zombies mix in with the Plague Reapers of Nurgle. So look how freaking cool those Plague Reapers look with their scythes. And you guys probably saw those in the previous mod. These guys are just monsters. They have Swarm of Flies, so all nearby units get lowered melee attack. They also have incredible stats with an anti-infantry bonus. So very, very cool thematic army from the Nurgle and Khorne warriors. So guys, without further ado, let's get right into the action. I'm sure you guys are sick and tired of hearing me droning on about all of these units, but we'll definitely do my best to speed this up here. So over here on the far side, the Knights of Nurgle, you can see he does have two groups of those as well. So these are basically, like most Nurgle units, they have physical resist, slightly lower combat stats, but very good in sustained combat. But I do have my Knights of Khorne coming on this pathway. So there's a bit of a causeway down here. So Black Iron and I were both kind of just had this non-verbal agreement to just engage down here with our Cav, as it would be a very cool kind of a pinnacle area to fight on. So I do have some of my Chaos Cultists coming over here with the polearms, and I'm going to support them with my Chaos Knights of Khorne, who are going to push down into that valley over there and hopefully be able to win that fight for me. So this is just an incredibly cool map, though. It has these two arcways here where you can really have these very thematic fights. You can see Italian Spartacus over here, and it kind of drops you into the pit with the camera sometimes. But you can see the Bloodthirster just kind of poking around, and it's incredibly fast, so you can run around the map and do a lot of harass. And one of the issues for Nurgle is they don't have In the mod, there are like anti-large and halberds and things, but for the sake of this battle, we decided to just do like very thematic, faction-only units. So only Khorne, only Nurgle, but you could mix in cultists, of course, and those kind of low-tier units. But they went with Nurgle's Afflicted, this is basically like a zombie horde pushing towards us. And I really like how there's that like green aura of putrid kind of a gas coming out of all the Nurgle units, which is very, very neat. Over on the far side, the forces of Nurgle are pushing up the hill. They're going to kind of secure this bridge a little bit faster than I am with my Khorne forces. And down here, you can see this one Nurgle cav actually gets a little bit out of position, and the Chaos Warriors of Khorne are kind of waiting right here. And if you look at a stat comparison, these guys have 48 weapon strength compared to the 29 of Nurgle, so a massive difference. And I would say, Khorne does have a lot of disadvantages against Nurgle. One of the places where they are going to have an advantage is in the Knights of Khorne, who have higher charge bonus, higher weapon strength. So they're going to initiate this battle and draw first blood. And you can see the Knights of Khorne just charging in there, and they're going to start doing some massive damage against these Knights of Nurgle. Even though they do have the physical resist, their weapon strength and melee attack is so much higher. In sustained trading, it's going to be very, very strong. I feel like the Nurgle infantry are a little bit better than the Khorne ones, but as far as this mod goes, the Knights of Khorne are very strong. So over here, the cultists that were hiding in the trees are going to scurry around the back line and form a bit of a shield wall. And you can see Black Iron realizes that pretty quick, and he's going to pull out with these Knights of Nurgle. But the Knights of Khorne took very little damage, whereas the Knights of Nurgle just got destroyed by these Knights of Khorne. And you can see the cultists chasing them down. But the Knights of Nurgle do have some reinforcements coming from across the bridge who are going to get in there and hopefully be able to kind of rescue them. So you can see a bit of a hot chase here, and some of the riders of Nurgle are just being decapitated as they try and run away. These guys definitely taking some skulls for the Skull Throne. Always a good time playing Khorne, so... Yeah, and it was pretty fun. When you start mixing in some of the giants and these other monstrous units, Khorne becomes quite a bit stronger. But if you just go with their infantry, it's very tough against Nurgle with their putrescent explosion. So over on the far side, the battle pretty much is about to begin for the Italian Spartacus over here. And one of the best ways is when you go over the pillar, it actually like jumps up and over. So for the sake of the camera, I will be going around. But you can see here the Bloodthirster is actually taking fire. He is using the Deadly Onslaught and some of those other damage augmentations right here. And he's actually chasing off this Death Sorcerer. So you can just see this Bloodthirster. It's just going to do some serious work. And guys, he's incredibly fast, does a ton of damage. And you can see he can catch the Cav because he actually has 80 move speed. So you can see these Warriors of Nurgle are kind of lining up here. And Italian Spartacus wanted to probably unify him with his forces. So the Bloodthirster is going to run back across the bridge while these guys kind of posture up here. So on both sides of the battle, the war is about to start, the grand battle, the blood is about to spill. And over here, let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit just so we can get to the battle a little bit quicker for you guys. So Nurgle is taking the initiative and pushing across the bridge, and Khorne is kind of posturing up its forces right here. And I want to try and get a good angle for you guys. So right here, you can see the first group of the Warriors of Nurgle are going to push in against these Warriors of Khorne. And you can see the Chaos Lord of Khorne is leading these troops in battle, and he hits like an absolute truck. So they all collide, just slamming into one another, and the other forces of Nurgle are just shambling across the bridge. You can see that Chaos Lord or Champion of Khorne just pushing into those guys. But Nurgle is going to be using a putrescent explosion, which just does a ton of damage. You can see it takes those Skull Takers of Khorne just down massively, and those are my elite units. But the Forsaken Giant jumps in there and gets an excellent knockback on the enemy Lord. And my Chaos Lord in here is also doing very good work. So again, my apologies for the camera on this, but it's a little bit tricky with this these pillars here. But a very, very just pitch fight on the bridge. You can see up here, my Chaos Lord is pushing through. I really wanted to go after his Lord and try and assassinate him, because in sustained combat versus Nurgle, it's not going to be a good day. So you can see I am pushing in here right now, and my Lord and all these other troops are getting in and trying to get on this his champions up here. But you can see, unfortunately, that putrescent explosion is doing a very, very good job. So kind of, since I was a little bit familiar with Nurgle, I decided to keep some of my forces in auxiliary over here and just hold them back and just kind of wait, because I didn't want to like get AoE'd by a ton of troops. And you can also see the Plague Bearers up here just getting down and dirty against these Warriors of Khorne. Over here, you can see it's probably going to jump me over. No, it actually let me stay down here, which is good for the sake of the camera. So the Warriors of Nurgle are pushing, and you can see this Chaos Lord is in here just fighting tooth and nail, trying to go after some of the enemy Lords, but he is getting knocked over, and just look how much more bigger and imposing he is, even than these Plague Reapers. So just an absolutely wild bridge fight over here. Over on the far side, let's jump to the mighty Italian Spartacus, who is fighting with his Demons of Khorne over here. So he has mostly Bloodthirsters, who are pretty tattered. And you can see a lot of his cultists are routing off. You can see his Demon Caster back here. Oh, there it goes. It shoots me over the pillar there. My apologies, guys. But you can see the Bloodthirster in the back line, and these Bloodletters are in here fighting. The Bloodletters hit really hard, guys. They have pretty good offensive stats, but they are somewhat squishy. But you can see the Demonic Invigoration is keeping these guys in the battle, and then the Bloodthirster is just coming in from the Shadow Realm. So Italian Spartacus's army is going to be pretty small for the most part, but you can see he's just chasing that Death Caster around. That Nurgle caster is definitely running for his life, as these Bloodletters and other troops are holding off the forces of Nurgle on the bridge. So yeah, these Bloodletters are really cool. They're going to fight till the bitter end, even though, you can see they do have a binding type mechanic, so they're not going to rout off in a traditional way. But you guys can see the Plague Cannon over there on the far side is shooting these guys off. So I would say Italian Spartacus's army here is definitely starting to lose this battle, but guys, he still has this Bloodthirster who, when he charges in here, he just like runs through things. He does not care. He knocks over his own troops. He has very good splash damage and knockbacks. He's kind of very similar to like playing with a Sartorial in multiplayer, in that he can just walk through anything and just does not care at all. So we'll go back over to the other bridge battle. You can see It's pretty pitched over here. It's a very, very even fight, and I'm getting pushed back a little bit, but I still do have like my lords in here who are fighting very, very well. The Chaos Lord of Khorne is in here. You can also see my Forsaken Giant is doing a good job, and the Chaos Lord of Nurgle is getting bullied a little bit, guys. He's been taking a lot of damage, whereas my Chaos Lord of Khorne and my Champion of Khorne are both in very good shape. A lot of my infantry are being pushed back from the constant putrescent explosions that are coming out of the Nurgle troops, and most of the Nurgle troops are in very good health, whereas my leadership is doing, I would say, slightly better, but his army by far is pushing my Khorne warriors back. I have some Skull Takers and Warriors of Khorne here who are kind of holding in the fourth quarter. You can also see this Forsaken Giant is getting some great attacks on these Warriors of Khorne on the bridge, but another putrescent explosion coming out, just wreaking absolute havoc. And that AoE poison effect is just lowering the leadership, the damage, and all of the really good offensive stats from my Warriors of Khorne in here. And you can see another putrescent explosion coming down from that Champion of Nurgle over here. It's incredibly strong, as you guys saw in the previous spotlight. So you can see there's just a body of Khorne warriors just kind of littered everywhere, and then he just takes out that Khorne warrior with his scythe, just doing some excellent work. But guys, the Forsaken Giants are in really, really good shape. And if we take a look, the Chaos Lord of Nurgle here is very low, and you can see the champion, the Chaos Lord of Khorne, my leader of my army, is pushing through the ranks, just going after him, and the Chaos Lord of Nurgle definitely knows he's in some trouble, so he's going to have to run out of here pretty quick. Over here on the far side, my Knights of Khorne did kind of win that battle against his cav over there, and they did push around, and they got a really good rear charge on these Warriors of Nurgle, and I also do have another Forsaken Giant coming around the flank here. So it's pretty good, but that constant putrescent explosion, just look at the damage wreaking on my Warriors of Khorne. I only have a few cultists fighting, but over here this is a great situation. So let's go ahead and zoom in here for the cinematic, for the kill shot. Oh no, let us get it. Okay, so my lord actually was able to knock down, or I think that's his lord right there. So yeah, you can see my lord just actually decapitates the Chaos Lord of Nurgle and just takes his skull for the skull throne, quite literally. So he is an absolute beast of a duelist. Granted, in terms of like AoE and crowd control, he's not going to do as well, but you can see this Champion of Nurgle coming over here to avenge his buddy. He's got his scythe out, but this is not a situation you want to be in as a duelist. You can also see this Forsaken Giant just doing a monster sleep over here, knocking this guy into the shadows where he is uncertain, most certainly just going to get taken out. His skull is absolutely going to the skull throne, and all that kind of whatever corn puns you want to make, guys, it's happening right now. So that champion doing some excellent work. You can see this guy has about half health, but he's shaken, and look how much damage that Forsaken Giant did, just absolutely decimating him. So you can see Black Iron quickly retaliates with some of the Plague Reapers over here trying to rescue him, but he actually gets terrified right now. So that's truly a testament to the terror of this Chaos Lord of Khorne. So he's going to get chased off here. He's just going to continue to duel. And even though the Nurgle champion can do pretty well, that Forsaken Giant just does a leaping slice and just cuts him in half. So right now, though, it's looking good considering I was able to kill his leadership. But guys, he has a ton of these Plague Reapers in pretty good shape. He also does have just a lot of infantry just fighting. The Warriors of Nurgle have managed to chase off a lot of my Warriors of Khorne. So at the end of the day, he did take the bridge. Most of his leadership is dead, but all of my infantry, for the most part, are just in tatters. So I just have these two Forsaken Giants and then the Chaos Lord of Khorne here fighting. So, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the mighty Italian Spartacus. So over here you can see that the Gobbo King is bringing his Chaos Nurgle caster up here to help out Black Iron. But over here, it's looking pretty rough for the Bloodthirsters and the Khorne army, as there has been a complete rout. The Bloodthirsters were all essentially slain on the bridge, but you can see on the far side, the Bloodletters. But the Bloodthirster over there on the far side of the bridge is actually going to shut down those Plague Cannons. But guys, this is very, very scary because all of these Nurgle forces are going to be marching up the bridge to intercept what's left of my leadership. The balance of power is very, very heavily in the favor of Nurgle. Khorne only has about 207 troops left to the 1,000 of Nurgle. Granted, Nurgle does have a lot of fodder units. They do have these big groups of Nurgles Afflicted who come in models of 150 at the base, but still, these Nurgle troops are in very good shape. You can see these Plague Bears are going to be pushing up the bridge. It's going to be a very, very tough battle for Khorne to come back from. So if we go ahead and look over here, you can see that the Forsaken Giant is actually just chasing down this Deathcaster, and the Chaos Lord of Khorne is kind of surrounded by Plague Reapers and a bunch of other guys, though he does have the support of the Giants. But my leadership is in some serious trouble because these Plague Reapers hit like absolute trucks, guys. And I'm also getting tar pitted by all of these Nurgles Afflicted. Their swarm of flies is lowering the melee attack of my troops, and I don't really have any Khorne infantry left. Over here in the back, you can see some of my Khorne warriors are kind of starting to fight in the fourth quarter, but it looks like they actually did break right when I was gonna highlight them. But right here there's some Warriors of Khorne, and these are just standard Warriors of Khorne, but pretty much my Skull Takers, who are my elite. Black Iron did an outstanding job of just killing them with his freaking putrescent explosion. So it was a very tough fight for me to come back from. But the Warriors of Khorne definitely, have good leadership. They're going to fight, as long as they possibly can until their forces are essentially decimated. So they're getting in there against these Warriors of Nurgle. And I just love the models on these guys. It's really cool. And then the slight hue of like green gas coming out is very neat. So you can just see these Warriors of Nurgle just covered with the blood of Khorne. So regardless, at the end of the day, however this battle goes, Khorne is most certainly going to be the winner here. But this Chaos Lord of Khorne, just resilient here, just fighting in the pocket, just fending these guys off. But guys, he is very very low. He has popped his deadly onslaught as well as his heroic killing blow, bringing his weapon strength up to 673. And he's been getting some good attacks here, but he's having quite a bit of trouble coming back. He is kind of surrounded and getting tar pitted. I do bring a Forsaken Giant over here to help out. So the Giant is going to be marching over here to help out a little bit. But still, for the most part, my Lord is surrounded, and this Forsaken Giant most likely is not going to be able to save him. So the Chaos Lord of Khorne is very low. You can see his HP is down to 381. His leadership is pretty good considering that. The Frenzy, obviously, is very helpful to Endless Frenzy in that respect, so he's not going to get, like, terror routed by anything. But Nurgle doesn't have, like, a ton of units that cause terror, so that was, you know, something that was nice for me. But the Chaos Lord of Khorne down to about 210 HP, but these Forsaken Giants are doing their best to protect him. But, guys, we do have Doom coming. The shambling army of Nurgle is pushing up the hill. They're very, very slow for the most part, but you can see, where's that Bloodthirster? So he's actually on the far side over there. So let's go ahead and zoom over there and see what's going on. So over here you can see this Bloodthirster. It was probably not the best idea to go after these guys in the back line and shut down the cannons. He definitely should have been like harassing the army, but you know, when he gets thirsty for blood, he's just got to, you know, do his thing. But at the end of the day, he did shut down these cannons and chase these guys off. But right now, Italian Spartacus, realizing that the battle is going to be, you know, won and lost over here on the hill, he's running back. And this guy does have 80 move speed, so he's just going to be sprinting back. And guys, he is also immune to vigor, so he's not going to get tired. He's animated. That's something that's really nice going for us. And you can see this Chaos Lord of Nurgle is actually running from him. So this Bloodthirster, I think he actually just runs through to help me out because I was just calling for help right now. I was like, Italian, I need your help here. I'm just getting swarmed up on the hill. The Khorne forces were, you know, having a little bit more trouble, especially since that Chaos Caster of Nurgle came over here and started casting spells up here. So right now, my Forsaken Giants are just kind of the last bastion of Khorne's troops over here. I do also have this Chaos Champion of Khorne here, who's just, you know, been fighting this entire time. He's racked up 81 kills, and right now he actually has 537 weapon strength. Look how cool his weapon looks. It's kind of like a bit of an axe sword hybrid. So he's going to get in here and just start taking out these plague bearers. He actually just cuts off the arm of that one, and he's going to definitely do some good fighting in here. The Khorne champions are very good duelists. Granted, they just have raw combat stats. They don't really have any like tricks up their sleeve like the Nurgle ones do, or the Tzeentch ones, or even the Slaanesh ones. But in terms of just pure combat, these guys are linebackers. Over here, you can see these Forsaken Giants are just slaughtering these troops. And I believe the Plague Reapers do have a bit of an anti-large bonus, so that's pretty nice for them. They're able to get a good wrap, and you can see one of my Forsaken Giants is getting very, very low, whereas the other one's in good health, but this guy is taking a lot of damage, but he still has a lot of HP. 2,000 HP is nothing to sneeze at, but unfortunately, they do break my Champion of Khorne here, and guys, the reinforcements from the other Nurgle army are getting very, very close, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit because there's a lot of like shambling and marching here, but more importantly, guys, you can see the Bloodthirster is coming up the hill, and he's going to start just pushing through the ranks of these troops, just kind of slaughtering them as he runs through. The charges are a little bit awkward on this unit, but just look at him just path through and just absolutely linebacker these guys. He was trying to get to my Chaos Giant right now just to help him and, you know, kind of save the day. So he's just pushing through. And guys, a lot of these are kills. When he charges through units like that, and just look at how he charges through monstrous units. He just trampled those Plague Bears of Nurgle. And he's just coming up the hill, just slaughtering these units, getting massive, devastating damage. He does cause terror, and you can see that he just terrifies these warriors of Nurgle. One of the most imposing forces in Ryan, or Italian Spartacus, does cast Plague, or excuse me, Kill, Maim, Burn. And you can see this caster, as he has been running the entire game, is going to get chased down here. So 96 move speed right now, and he's able to chase down this guy who has 80 move speed, so that Chaos Sorcerer is most certainly not long for this world, excuse me. So the two Forsaken Giants here are just fighting in the pocket against these forces of Nurgle. You can see the balance of power still very heavily in the forces of Nurgle's favor, but they are down to 560, and a lot of their troops are getting terror routed by these Forsaken Giants, and it looks like my Chaos Champion of Nurgle, or excuse me, of Khorne, is back online. He is over here from route. He actually has 1200 HP still, so he's in pretty good shape. And over here, guys, the Bloodthirster of Khorne is chasing him around the tree, literally just getting Benny Hilled. But, you know, anytime we can get rid of that caster, that's good. And Italian Spartacus was able to break him, and he brings a lot to the table. He does have Putress and Explosion, as well as Fleshy Abundance, so he would be able to heal some of these Plague Reapers, which would give them that very good anti-large. But one thing that's looking very, very grim for them is the fact that they don't have a ton of anti-large left. A lot of their Plague Reapers are not in great shape, and you can just see he sends that Plague Reaper flying into the Shadow Realm. I just really hope they add these type of units in the 3rd expansion, or whenever they do for, you know, the Chaos update. It's going to be so cool to see all these like demons and different units just from a cinematic perspective. I mean, this is a modded unit. Granted, it could be a lot cooler, but for the, you know, resources that these modders have available to them, just look how freaking cool this guy is. Look at the knockback. He just sends these warriors of Nurgle and these Plague Reapers just flying into the distance, just racking up massive kills. He actually has 67 kills, which doesn't seem like a lot, but he was sniping enemy lords. He was able to just punish that Nurgle lord and the casters and just do a lot of work. And even though the Bloodletter army over there did kind of fail in just raw combat, this guy is most certainly making up for it here. So right now, the Forsaken Giants and the other troops were able to kind of finish off this Khorne army over here. So now it's basically Italian Spartacus's lord And my Nurgle Forsaken Giants and the remnants of my cultists over here, who are in, okay shape considering. They have 69 models. They do have a little bit of armor piercing, so they're going to charge in here against some of these guys. You can see the Forsaken Giant with just epic leap, just cutting that guy limb from limb. And you can see my cultists in here charging again against some of these guys here, doing some excellent damage. So guys, this is just an absolutely wild fight, just close and down to the wire. You can also see the Chaos Champion of Nurgle coming in here, or excuse me, of Khorne, his eyes ablaze, and look at how cool that weapon is. I really like that. That's awesome. So very, very awesome stuff from the modder here. Definitely got to give him some props. So guys, again, for anyone who's interested in playing this mod, you can actually play it multiplayer with your buddies if you all have the mod. And we will be doing probably one more game from this mod. I don't want to do it too much, but it will be a battle between Slaanesh and against Tzeentch. So that's going to be quite a bit of fun. So let me take a sip of water here, guys. Anyways, you can see the Forsaken Giants here are getting the standard die from the Bloodthirster, who's just doing some serious work. And you can see these guys, just all these monsters, demons of Khorne, just tearing into these Nurgle troops, just tearing them limb from limb. And the Nurgle troops do have very good leadership, but this is just so much power right here. Just look at these Forsaken Giants, just these bloodthirsty units with endless frenzy just laying into them. But guys, my Forsaken Giant is starting to get a little bit low. He's down to 16, 19 leadership right now, and it's going to be a very, very tough, close fight. My Chaos Champion of Khorne here is still fighting, but he's starting to take quite a bit of damage because these Plague Bearers of Nurgle hit hard. And also the Plague Reapers of Nurgle with their poison is very, very, detrimental to enemy leadership and all kinds of other things like that. But the forces of Nurgle are just streaming up the hill, guys. They're just continuing to come. It's like an endless horde of zombies. I mean, literally, they're basically zombies, these Afflicted. And the Afflicted are very good against the Giant because they're basically a tar pit unit, so the Giants are wasting a lot of auto attacks on them. It's just kind of wearing my troops down. You can see my Forsaken Giants are exhausted. Thankfully for us, the Bloodthirster is immune to Vigor. He has infinite energy, I shall say. He's not going to get tired. He's just going to lay in here. You can see that gas and that poison just affecting my units, mucking them down. But that other Forsaken Giant did come back from rout, and he's steady now. He has 37 leadership and still has about 1,000 HP, so that's going to be a pretty good situation. You can see over here my Chaos Champion or Champion of Khorne is fleeing. He is being chased by some Plague Reapers though, which is really rough because I didn't want to lose him because 500 HP is a lot, and he hits quite hard. But with that poison from the Plague Reapers, his weapon strength gets brought down to 385, so just a true testament to how strong that poison is. Like when you look at a lot of the Nurgle units on paper, you're like, wow, their stats aren't the best, but when you mix in their physical resist on top of that poison, they become pretty elite, guys. So over here, that Bloodthirster is doing great work, and I honestly don't know how our opponents are going to kill him. And you can see the balance of power is really starting to even out here. The Forsaken Giants are just tearing into these guys. Over here in the far distance, you can see this Chaos Lord of Nurgle. He did escape the wrath of the Bloodthirster, and our opponent's very wisely kind of keeping him in the distance, realizing that if he gets too close and that Bloodthirster sees him, he's probably going to get slaughtered. On that same note, they are also moving up the cannons. So if these cannons are able to get in position and start firing at the Bloodthirster and those Forsaken Giants, that could be pretty good for our opponents, as these guys, I don't think they have an anti-large, do they? No, they just have heavy armor piercing. They also do have poison, which is really cool. I like the idea of having poison on an artillery piece. It really gives you like targeted utility and allows you to do some pretty good work. So we'll zoom back over here, guys, and continue this fight. So that Bloodthirster just continuing to just get through the muck and the mire of the Nurgle forces, and the Forsaken Giants are also in pretty good shape, but one of them just keeps getting routed off. It's at about 500 HP, and my cultists have also been routed off. So they still have a ton of Plague Reapers here who are in really, really good shape. Thankfully for us, though, this Bloodthirster is just in outstanding shape. I mean, it has about 10,000 HP. It doesn't have the most armor, so like anti-large is pretty effective against it. We were doing some tests with like the Slaanesh units. In the Slaanesh units, a lot of them have anti-large, they're lancers and things like that. So they're able to deal with the Bloodthirster a little bit better than Nurgle is. But still Nurgle can kill it through attrition, but it's very tough, especially considering they lost all their champions and their leadership. So they don't really have that like heavy hitting stopping power to fight this guy. Down here, you can see that my Chaos Champion is running into the trees. He's just fleeing, and Black Iron, smelled the blood in the water, and he does have some of his Plague Reapers chasing him through the forest. We'll go ahead and fast forward here because we do have a final pretty cool little duel here. So he is going to come back from route here in just a moment. You can see he's scurrying into the trees, and he does come back. So right now I realized that, oh no, he's going to get caught by these Plague Reapers as they come through the forest. They got their sights out. Definitely going to do some work for Papa Nurgle, and they are going to engage against this Champion of Khorne. So he comes in, he takes out two of those Plague Reapers, but he is going to get poisoned. He's being hit in the rear. His leadership is down to the negatives right now, and guys, he is most likely going to get killed because his speed is only 27, so he does get slowed to the point where he's not going to be able to get away. So they're absolutely going to be able to kill him. So very, very well played by Black Iron, sensing that, because that's going to tip the balance of power a little bit further in their favor when they are able to kill that monstrous unit. But for the rest of the Nurgle troops, it's starting to look pretty grim. The Forsaken Giant and the Bloodthirster are just tearing through these guys. So we'll fast forward a little bit because it's just a beating, and a lot of these forces of Nurgle are just getting worn down. There was still some like trundling up even until this point. But most of the Nurgle forces are going to start mass shattering right now. You can see they're getting worn down and terrified. And finally, those guys are coming through, especially since Killmain Burn is popped, bringing their weapon strength and his charge bonus up to 100 and his weapon strength up to over 800, which is just insane. So the Nurgle forces have been shattered by the Bloodthirster. They were targeting my Forsaken Giant, which would hopefully allow them to kind of focus their resources on the Bloodthirster. But the Bloodthirster is just literally, as the name infers, out for blood. So that Chaos Lord of Nurgle over there is definitely shaking in his boots. They are setting up the cannons over here, and the balance of power is now finally in the Khorne army's favor. And you can see he did chase off some of my guys over there. Oh, actually, those were his Nurgle afflicted. But anyways, we'll fast forward a little bit because, guys, there's quite a bit of marching. It's a very big map. So you can see the Bloodthirster is just running across the bridge. It's so pissed about just getting beaten on all game and having its army decimated. So it's going to just literally charge through the ranks of these guys. Look at it. It's just like Terry, the office linebacker, just charging through those Nurgle warriors who are trying to protect their lord, but it does not care. So it's going to get in there and start dueling this Nurgle lord who's coming in for a last stand, but he is just getting beaten down. And this Nurgle lord has about 800 HP left, and he's surprisingly, he's at his healing cap because he was getting a lot of healing through the Fleshy Abundance, but this Bloodthirster is definitely not going to show him a good time, guys. He hits him, does about 200 HP, and he's doing some decent damage to this Bloodthirster finally. And had they been able to keep some of their leadership and some of their cav, the cav are pretty effective at dealing with the Bloodthirster because they can keep up with it. You can cycle charge it and do some great damage. So guys, the Chaos Lord of Nurgle is indeed shattered. In the last pocket of resistance here, some of these warriors of Nurgle are going to try and fight this thing, but this thing is definitely no joke. And just kind of for reference, guys, the Bloodthirster in the mod, we were playing on Ultra Funds, right? So Ultra Funds is 17,000 resources, and this thing costs 7,000 fully kitted out. Whereas like the other lords, this lord is like 2,000. So just in perspective, this is basically like half of your army of an investment. I do think it's quite powerful, but when we're playtesting against like Slaanesh is able to kill the Bloodthirster very easily. Whereas Nurgle struggles a little bit more, but this mod obviously isn't balanced. I mean, the Nurgle infantry are exponentially better than Khorne, but the Khorne leadership is quite strong as well. At hero sniping, but had I not been able to hero snipe the Nurgle lords up there, I think we would have lost this game because they would have been able to help against this Bloodthirster and things like that. But you could see this guy is just running around, just tossing these guys into the air, just literally claiming skull after skull, having racked up 158 kills. So guys, that is pretty much all she wrote. I do have my Forsaken Giants coming in the distance, and what an outstanding battle. It was just close, long, back and forth. So if you look at my infantry, the Skulltakers of Khorne actually only got 58 and 34 kills respectively. The Warriors of Khorne did okay, but the Giants were the true MVPs. For the Black Iron, his army that I was fighting, the Nurgles Afflicted obviously didn't get many kills. The Nurgle Infantry did, but the Plague Reapers outperformed my Skulltakers hard. On top of that, I think one of the big factors on why the battle went okay on my side is that his Knights of Nurgle basically got 2v1 by the Knights of Khorne in just a single group of cultists. And the cost of the Knights of Nurgle is pretty much the same. And the Plague Bearers were okay. I feel like for their cost, they almost cost 2,000. I feel like the Plague Reapers are a much better choice. But again, we were mainly picking armies not for like the sake of being competitive, but just for showcasing all the units of that respective god. So for over here, you can see that for, where's his army over here? The Gobbo Kings. The Gobbo King, his Plague Reapers did well. He did have the Plague Bearers. His cannons did okay. But again, the Bloodthirster was able to kind of kill his lords very effectively and take their skulls. But, Italian Spartacus, his army just got pretty destroyed. I mean, they got a lot of kills, but that's deceptive because those kills were all against the Nurgles Afflicted for the most part. So the Chaos Warriors of Khorne literally took almost no casualties against his army, but the Bloodthirster definitely paid for its costs, guys, and did some serious work. For Black Iron's army, again, pretty good results from the Skulltakers and all that kind of good stuff. So it was just a fun game. So if you guys would like to see some more mods, if you have any suggestions, Italian Spartacus and I were talking about doing a battle with Kislev versus the Warriors of Chaos with the mod and some Bear Cav and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys have any suggestions for mods, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll definitely do my best at taking a look at those. And again, thank you guys all for watching. I really appreciate your perpetual support. And guys, got more content coming soon.